Muted.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. We were just talking into the vacuum, I guess, for less than 5 minutes. So, welcome, everyone, to the Sugar Support Call.
Hey, in our defense, I heard that somebody like a Steve Jobs, not Steve Jobs obviously, but some big CEO had their annual huge shareholder call with thousands of people, and apparently he was on mute for like 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that happened a while back. So it happens to the best of us.
You can add this to our ECLA blooper reel.
Outtake.
Okay, so thank you for your patience, everyone. We wanted to start the meeting. Liz with ECLA actually has a couple announcements about our vendors, Discount School Supply and Environments, who are offering us some really great discounts. So, Liz, take it away.
Yes, thanks, Sharon. So we got a notification a couple of days ago from Discount School Supply and Environments that they're really stepping up for councils, and they have decided to offer significant new discounts through May 15th. And so they're actually going to give us an assigned email to use for all councils, and I'll be sending that out to all of you. They're going to give you a net 45-day terms, and they won't be holding back orders due to credit limits, which it sounds like it'll be a huge help for you guys as we head into our big spending season. So they are offering 18% off, and this is for Discount School Supply specifically, 18% off, free freight over $99 on stock, and free freight over $300 on drop ship. And so for Environments, they're going to be offering a 15% off discount, 15% discount, and free freight over $300. So again, there's going to be a dedicated email group set up for all of Colorado councils, and I'll be sending that out. So they're very excited about this. I think they're excited to do this leading up to the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Conference, but they really want to step up and show a lot of love and support for councils going forward with these great discounts.
And just to add to that, we have updated the email address in Sugar for Discount School Supply to be the new email address that they'd like for us to use, and you can use that for any questions you have as well. And so anything that's ordered through EC Connect through May 15th automatically will be at that 20% off rate. Otherwise, if you have a provider who's ordering from Discount School Supply directly, then you can let them know about the RMECC discount code that's on your screen, and they can actually access that directly as well. So it doesn't need to go through EC Connect for that discount. And then after May 15th, then it will just revert back to the 18%. So that's why you're kind of hearing 18% and 20%. Okay. So really great progress, especially on the net 45 and no credit limits. That's something we've really struggled to get from Discount School Supply, and they have been amazing for honoring that and allowing us to use that flexibility. So are there any questions related to Discount School Supply or environments? Okay, great. So it sounds like we're all set to go on that. Thanks so much, Liz.
Sure.
And so we wanted to give a little bit of an update on Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Conference. At this point, Friday is basically full. And so if you are registering any of your providers through EC Connect, they can still try to register for Friday or for both days. But they will go into the system, and if you do pre-approve that transaction, then those registrants will be waitlisted. And there is usually some movement in the registration, so it's very possible that if they're waitlisted, they will be able to attend. But if they aren't able to attend, then you would simply cancel that quality improvement spending request, and that funding will be go back to their requisition. So right now for Friday, I think we have about 1,800 people registered so far, so it should be a big event. Are there any questions on RMECC? It looks like we did have a question. Do providers put the discount code in EC Connect? And actually, no, that's not necessary because any order that's processed through EC Connect will automatically get that 20% discount. So you don't need to put in the code at all. Discount School Supply will supply that discount. Okay, great. Okay, has there been any questions on the process of getting providers registered for Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Conference through EC Connect? Okay, good. All right, well then with that, we'll go ahead and move on to a couple of other little updates and then just open it up for questions. We know we've gotten a lot of reports that the coaching reports, a lot of the coaching reports are not currently working, and that's due to the change in our coaching, removing the meetings from sort of the coaching workflow of entering coaching. And so those are all one by one being modified and updated so that they will run those reports again. And we expect that that will be completed this afternoon, so thanks for your patience with that. And if you ever notice any reports kind of not showing the information that you think that they should be, the first thing you should do is always check the filters. But if you check the filters and it's still not quite pulling in the information that you suspect it should be pulling in, that's a good time to submit a support ticket so we can make sure that the report is designed to actually pull the data that you're looking for. And we also have, oh, it looks like we do have a question come in. When looking at sugar spending, it shows RMECC rejected canceled, but I didn't see an email come through as a QI nav to approve and send to program manager. So this is something, I think, this is Tina, I think it says. Yep. So Tina, I did see your ticket about that, and sorry I haven't responded to you yet, but that does happen if the provider starts a quality improvement request and then doesn't actually submit it and doesn't save it up, then, and they actually hit cancel, then it will show up as canceled in Sugar, but there is no notification because there's technically no action needed by the QI Navigator. However, your email kind of triggered a thought in my mind that maybe we should have an email that's sent to the QI Navigator just as an FYI, that there should be a little notification that says, hey, it looks like this provider was trying to submit a request but ended up canceling it. You may consider following up with that provider. Would that be helpful to everyone?
Only whether they were.
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you?
Audio. Yeah.
You're breaking up a little bit. Maybe you can type in the chat box. So it looks like we're getting some yeses on, and okay, that makes sense. So it sounds like it would be appreciated to have a little email that just says, hey, wanted to let you know this provider started filling out a quality improvement request but hit cancel. Here's their phone number if you want to follow up, or phone number and email address. So I can put that together, and we can probably have that implemented like on Monday or Tuesday this week. So, so great. Thank you for asking that question, Tina. All right. Looks like we have another question. If a program deletes the email that has the link for the MOU, the only thing we have been able to figure out to do is to cancel the MOU and resend it. Is there a better, different way to do it? Yes, so actually the MOU, first there are a couple of things. The MOU always CCs the program manager on the funding stream, so you can forward the email that you receive as the program manager to that provider to sign. So that would be the easiest thing to do. The other thing is that every week the provider, if they have not signed, will receive a reminder email from EchoSign, so they could just wait until they receive that additional a notification within a week. So I'd say the first one is probably the best option, where you can forward the email that you originally received to the provider. It sounds like Stacey says, good to know, so that's great. And that's also a nice little trail for you, so you know, I know that this MOU went out because I received a copy as well. And it's nice if it gets caught in spam or things like that. You've got that documentation. All right, any other questions? So I think we had a question, should we be seeing anything besides the flyer? And no, we just are showing the flyer because we're not demoing anything at the moment. But if anybody would like to walk through anything or demo anything or has any questions, we can just open it up broadly for questions. While we're waiting for some questions, one other announcement is that we will be meeting as an ECLA team and with our developers to kind of do a reflection on all of the progress that has been made and little things that are still maybe driving us a little crazy that we want to keep refining and fix and make sure that things are really working the way we want them to. And we'll be doing that on Monday and Tuesday. So we do plan on producing some kind of summary document that we can share with all councils that really shows, hey, this is what we said we were going to do, 18 months ago, and here's what we've accomplished, and there are still some things outstanding, and here's kind of what we're looking at as we approach future development and kind of what's coming down the line. So I just wanted to give that announcement to let people know that that's coming. And we are also finalizing that sugar advisory group, and we'll be kind of getting that into play. So I think one of the first things that group will help us do is review those documents before we send them out to all councils. And we may also be trying to do a little bit of a satisfaction survey or sort of a confidence rating survey on the various areas of Sugar and EC Connect and kind of what you feel like maybe still feels a little glitchy, you know, what feels really solid, just so that we can really internalize all of that feedback and make sure that we're using that feedback to really drive what happens next. Okay. So we did get a couple questions in. So what documentation is necessary to reimburse a provider for substitute pay? I would assume a copy of the check to that substitute. So yes, you would need the copy of the check. For any reimbursement to a child care site, you need proof of payment, and so that does need to be attached at the time they submit the EC Connect request form. But for the substitute pay, there is actually also a form on the QI request form itself that you can download and fill out that just indicates like that they used a substitute that is kind of complying with labor laws and background checks and all of that good stuff that they need to do as a child care site, so that your council can't be held liable for paying a substitute that does not meet those requirements. So for substitute time, it's set up that that should only go through as a reimbursement to a child care site as opposed to paying a substitute directly, just to help protect the council from that liability. Any other questions? All right, so we have another question. Can you walk through the email process from navigators to lead coaches to program managers? In our council, we are not getting them or are only getting some. Sure. So let's see. So actually what we're going to be doing, let me pull up the support site. We do know that there have been some technical difficulties with some of the workflow emails getting generated, and it was particularly for the period from January 7th through January 21st that there were some issues, but that at this point those have all been resolved. So it's possible it might have felt like you weren't getting emails and you really weren't, but now everything should be all set going forward. But let's go ahead and go to the support portal real quick and pull up the spending submission and approvals diagram. So on here, can everybody see this okay? So from here, this really is telling you exactly who should be receiving the emails at each step. Basically, you know, when you log into EC Connect, you're going to go fill out your QI request form. If it's a punch out, then it'll be a punch out and you'll kind of go and submit. And when you submit, a couple things, it's going to look for a couple things. If it's submitted by the lead coach or if it's submitted by the QI navigator, the same process is going to happen, but it's going to mark on the sugar spending record whether or not it was submitted by the lead coach or the QI navigator, just so you have a really clear record of who's submitting the request on behalf of a provider. Or if it's by the primary contact, then obviously it will not indicate that the navigator or the coach submitted that. So once the QI request comes in, it will create a spending record, and it will also email you a quality improvement request confirmation. It is set to run that with after 1 minute. So in case they cancel or do something within that 1 minute, it kind of looks at it for 1 minute, and it can actually take up to 6 minutes to actually send, because we have something in the background that runs every 5 minutes that kind of pushes those notifications. So somewhere between 1 and 6 minutes from when you submit your quality improvement request, you should receive that quality improvement request confirmation email. That is if you are the QI navigator. If you are the lead coach, you are not CC'd on that email. So this QI request confirmation email is going to be addressed to the primary contact of the child care site and CC the QI navigator, who is the person that is assigned to the requisition that they just purchased from. So the lead coach will never receive this confirmation. Did anyone feel like they thought the lead coach was receiving that information? Okay. Looks like we have quite a few questions piling up, but we'll kind of get through this process first. So then once you receive that email, it's going to include a link to the spending record, at which point the QI Navigator can decide, do they want the lead coach to review and pre-approve the record, or do they want the program manager to review and pre-approve the record. So there are two options when you go into a spending record where you can either pre-approve, send for pre-approval to the program manager, or send a pre-approval for the lead coach. And for purposes of Sugar, the lead coach and the manager have the same ability to approve, pre-approve a record, but your council may say, well, we don't ever want a lead coach pre-approving a record, or we don't ever want the program manager doing that. We always want the lead coach to do that. So that's really a choice that your council gets to make on who you want to pre-approve the record. And so in order to do that, the QI Navigator would just select whichever option makes sense for your council. And then if it's a direct payment to a vendor, it's either going to actually generate an automatic PO and switch the status to ordered at the time of pre-approval, or it's going to say action needed, order not sent, because the vendor doesn't actually accept an automated email purchase order. When the automatic email is sent out, it's always going to be sent to the vendor primary contact on the vendor account record, and should always CC the QI Navigator. Now, this is where there were some issues between January 7th and January 21st, where that QI Navigator was not always being CC'd on the vendor purchase order records. Since that time, we believe that that has been completely resolved, but please report if you are not receiving those emails, because you should be receiving them. And we are going to set up a new ECLA email address that is blind copied on all of those emails, so that we have sort of a trail and we can really identify if those emails are not being sent out correctly. So if there's action needed, order not sent, what that means is you actually, as the QI Navigator or whoever does this for your council, need to actually call the vendor, or however you usually order from that vendor, place the order, and receive the invoice from that vendor manually, at which point the invoice can be uploaded and you can change the status to documentation uploaded and ready for finance review. At that point, the financial person will actually receive an email, the council financial contact, and actually at the request of several QI Navigators, that no longer CCs the QI Navigator, but let us know if that if you'd like for that to CC the QI Navigator. And at the same time, it will do a little check where if the order is over $2,500, it will also send an approval email to the primary contact for the council for anything over $2,500 or a capital improvement, actually. So backing up, and if it's a reimbursement to a site, then it kind of skips this whole ordering process, because by the time you get here, you should have all your documentation attached, and it should be able to go straight into finance, and then finance can review and approve or send back for needs correction, and then enter it into the accounting system for payment. Does that help answer that question? Let's see. It looks like that was from Mara. Mara, does that answer your question?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do a ticket. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so we're just going to do a ticket because when the lead coach and the QI Navigator approved it and sent it to the program manager, she approved it, but the navigator never got word that she approved it. That email didn't go through.
Okay. Yeah, so if you send us a link to the specific
Yeah.
spending record that you had a problem with, and we can look into that for sure.
Okay. And so that's just kind of where we were at. I thought we followed this and we looked at it, but we didn't know if we did it right. And so that's why we just wanted you to go through it with us again and
Sure.
see if it was something that we missed. But it looks like so we'll just do it that way. And it's happened to us a couple different times, so we'll just send a ticket. So, okay, thank you.
That sounds perfect. Thanks so much. All right, so let's see. We have a couple of other questions that are coming in. Okay, so we had one question of where are the spending modules located at? So spending is just like any of the other modules. It's up here at the top, and if you don't see it, you can click on this little more, and then that will list all the rest of the modules. Depending on what size screen you have, there may be some viewing issues, so you can just click the more and find the spending modules. And also, if you have more specific questions than just where the spending modules are located, then that might be worth setting up a separate individualized GoToMeeting call if you want to walk through how to use spending. All right, the next question is, could you show us how to lower the amount of award for school readiness sites? Is that possible? So yes, so Teresa, do you have an example site that you want to look at together?
Sure. The name is Carol Krieger.
Okay.
So it's CK5, I think. Yeah, CK5 is the code. Two E's.
A-R-I? Oh, E-E. There we go. Okay, Carol Krieger. And we want to go down and find her school readiness requisition. Okay. And so you'd like to modify her QI dollars?
Yes.
Okay. And so what we can do, we can come and look and see what the balance is right now. So her assigned funds are $2,500. But where you actually want to go is over here. We just recently added transfer to the Quick Create menu. So you can go from here, or you can find transfers up here. And I always like to open this in a separate window so I can go back to the original requisition if I'm looking for it. So in this case, we want to create a new requisition, and let's assign it to you. It's always going to default assign to yourself, so you don't usually have to worry about that. And Teresa, what team, what council are you with?
PECC, P-E-C-C.
Perfect, thanks. I know I should know that, sorry. And so in this case, we want to transfer from the requisition, and just a little trick, the requisition name is going to still be in that tab that you just had open, so it makes it a little easier. And so it's going to populate CK5SR16QI dollars, and we've got a remaining balance of $2,500, and it's from the account Carol Krieger, so that looks good. And then for the two requisitions, what would you think that you should do under two?
I'm not sure where it goes back to.
Perfect. So what you're doing really is you're taking money out of Carol Krieger's allocation and you're putting it into your pool discretionary council requisition so that you can then figure out how to reassign those dollars to another provider site later, right?
Well, according to our budget, we can only provide so much money. And
Right.
so it's really not, I mean, if it goes back in the pool, it's still not usable because it's not there.
Okay, so basically then you're reducing the amount of money that you're allocating to sites so that you can support more sites. Is that the idea?
No, so we can support the ones that we already had.
Right. So either you could have stuck with the formula that was kind of given for the fiscal year and only accept, let's say, 10 providers, but instead you decided to accept, let's say, 20 providers and just give them a lesser dollar amount. Is that right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. So for the pooled requisition, this is just a way to transfer the money to the pooled requisition so that you can kind of take it away from the provider site. And then the pooled requisition, you have full control over just being able to modify the assigned funds to match your approved budget. So what you can do is you can transfer the money in and then basically remove the money from the pooled discretionary requisition.
Okay.
So what we'll do here is just kind of finish this out. So you put in PECC as your council pooled requisition for Pueblo Early Childhood Council. This is your remaining balance currently. And the type, and it actually narrates right here. So a conversion is when you're transferring from QI to coaching, but a transfer is when you're transferring between two like items. So since this is QI dollars to QI dollars, this is just a transfer. The assignment type is in dollars, and the scope is a specific amount. If you wanted to transfer that whole $2,500 over, then you could, but you don't. Obviously, you can do a specific amount. And forfeiture means that the provider is actually forfeiting the dollars. This usually happens around the end of the year, and they say, hey, I have $10 left, but I can't use it, so I'm forfeiting it. So you can forfeit that remaining balance. So we're going to say no. And how many dollars do you want to take away?
1,107. No, take away.
Take away. Yes.
1,330. 1,330.
Okay, so basically you want the ending balance to be $1,120.
1,170 it should be.
Or 1170. Sorry, I can't do math in my head, obviously. So then we're going to go ahead and put in the transfer justification. So what is the reason why we're transferring funds away from this site?
The budget can't support the $2,500.
Because PECC is supporting a higher number of sites, right?
Well, no. We're supporting the same number of sites that we've had in the project with all these amendments and continuations. We're just supporting the same 8 sites. But our budget does not allow us enough money to to give each of those 8 sites the same amount of money, the $2,500.
Okay.
So we're trying to the balance of what we have.
Does this make sense? The budget can't support the $2,500 because PECC is supporting the same number of sites we've supported historically.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. So then we're going to go ahead and hit save. And it says, hooray, we completed the transfer. And so we can see now that the transfer occurred. And if we want to pop back to our requisition and update, then let's see. Actually, it might just take 1 second. And then the funds remaining should update to the 1170. This transfer. So basically, sometimes there might be a little bit of a delay because it's a scheduled thing that happens in the background. So we should expect to see that remaining balance does decrease by the transfer amount at that time. So one thing I wanted to just bring up is that one of the things that we'd like to really improve on and provide a lot of sort of a mock-up to this group is on creating a better budget control system. So right now, QI dollars are, they're really the thing that we focus on in sugar, but there's not anything tying it back to your approved budget other than yourself just knowing what your approved budget is. So one of the improvements that we're going to be talking about on Monday is kind of creating on the funding stream record some budget categories and creating some budget controls so it says, hey, look, I have $25,000 for direct quality improvement in this grant, and so it won't let you assign more than $25,000 of direct QI. And that's something you could modify on the funding stream itself, but you couldn't accidentally over-obligate yourself, which is somewhat easy to do in sugar if you're not paying close attention to the volume of requisitions that are being assigned and approved through the MOU process. So that will be coming up next is some really good improvements to requisitions, transfers, and the funding stream. And just like on spending, how we have sort of the available actions that are updating the status, what we'd like to do is have that on the requisition as well so that you don't actually have to go into the transfer module. You can just select, like, hey, I want to forfeit the remaining balance of this requisition. And it would kind of create the transfer for you in the background without you having to worry about doing the actual transfer itself. So are there any other questions related to that?
No, thanks.
Great, thanks. So it looks like there are a couple of questions. So one is, if a program closes, would we need to transfer money from their account, and would it be considered a forfeit? So yes, you would want to transfer money from the account, and I think you could call it a forfeit. It sort of probably depends on the circumstances. Like if the provider sort of voluntarily closed, then that would be a forfeit. If the center was like closed because of a licensing violation, then maybe that just is a transfer because you're basically taking the money back as opposed to the provider sort of freely forfeiting it. But that's, that's just a term that we use. I think we should have a shared definition for forfeiture, and that's something we can work on with the Sugar Advisory Group. Looks like we have another question. I'm still having trouble with the transfers. I followed the process you just went through, but each time the transfer ends up coming from X requisition and going back to X requisition. Everything looks correct until I click Save. Then the two requisitions seem to automatically change to the same requisition in the From requisition field. Phew, that's like a word problem right there. So, one thing I've noticed is if you start a transfer from the requisition itself, so if you go pull up the requisition and you come down and you create a transfer from the requisition screen, then it can sometimes get confused, and it's not that it's getting confused, but it pre-populates the requisitions for you as the same requisition on both sides. And then if you don't really type it in and select, then it can just revert it back to what it defaulted it to. So what I would recommend is always starting a fresh transfer by always clicking on the transfer, right-click, open link in new tab, and then start from a nice clean transfer record from here. Is that the process that you've been following, Alliance for Kids? I've been using the transfers module, not the requisition. So we might just need to set up a GoToMeeting because I have not been able, I know you submitted some tickets about that in the past, and I have not been able to reproduce that myself. So I might just need to see your screen and see what's happening in order to help diagnose what's going on there. That would be great. Okay, great. Thanks. All right. Are there any other questions? I guess it's important to point out, I think we've said this a lot, but I know we have different people on these calls all the time. So there are some known issues with the way that the data is coming from Salesforce into Sugar related to classrooms and quality improvement plan goals. And so I just wanted to point out that we are aware of the duplicate classroom issue, and sometimes there are duplicate QIP goals. And that has something to do with the process that Salesforce does as it's getting ready to schedule a rating. It kind of duplicates and archives QIP goals in classrooms in an interesting way. And we have not been able to work with the developers kind of from the Colorado Department of Human Services side, because they're kind of working out a contract process with that developer. But we do know that it's an issue, and we are working on a way to kind of have some time with that developer and figure out how to resolve that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we are aware of the issue. What you can do in the meantime is you can kind of select one of the classrooms, and whenever we resolve this, then we will make sure that we merge those duplicates so that all that history is still there for when you're associating things with classrooms and things like that. So that's a little bit of getting into the weeds, but just wanted to make sure people were aware that we know that that is an issue. And then also there's some formalization that we need to do with CDHS and licensing around what happens when a provider closes or changes ownership or changes license numbers, and what's the appropriate formal procedure for kind of either creating a new account in Sugar and moving over applications and requisitions and things like that to the new record, or do we kind of keep it on the old record and archive that and then move forward with the new record? So we will also be working on that, and we will also be involving the Sugar Advisory Group in that question. So I just wanted to kind of throw those out there as things that we know are going on, and we are working on as quickly as we can with our partners at CDHS. Okay, so it looks like we do have another question. I have a Kaplan order that was submitted on 1/18. I have not seen any communication on this order, no emails or PO requests. How do I follow up on this? So that's a great question. So I think the first thing to remember is that you as the council still have your own relationships with the vendors. So what I would recommend doing, and actually, Karina, if you could let me know what the record is, we can maybe pull it up and look at it together. If you have the purchase order number or what site it was for. But what I would recommend is that you follow up directly with that vendor and see, like say, I haven't received a confirmation that you received this order. Can you verify if you've received this order or not? So let's see.
Okay, so the order, let's see, the account is Eagle View Learning Center.
Eagle View. Eagle View Learning Center. Okay, great. Yeah. And what funding stream is it?
It was Race to the Top.
Oh. Sorry, what's that? Race to the Top. I thought you said it was at the top. Okay, let's see. Okay, this 1194.75?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so it looks like everything looks like it happened correctly. It says, thank you, by pre-approving this record, you generated a PO that CC'd Karina. So you should have gotten an email, but let's keep looking. So this is saying that the source is EC Connect and not a Kaplan punch-out. Did you mean to do a Kaplan punch-out, or was this sort of a manual order through EC Connect, through kind of the regular EC Connect form?
To be honest, I think it was a manual order through EC Connect. I think that it was before it was all when we had first launched EC Connect and it was going live with the orders and stuff. She was our first one to process an order because it was back on it looks like the 18th of January.
Okay. Yeah, so it looks like you pre-approved it on the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you know what? That was right in that period that we were just talking about. So from January 7th through January 21st, the purchase order emails were not reliably being generated. So what we did is we actually followed up with all the vendors for that time period for any vendor that accepts purchase orders and verified that they had the orders on behalf of the council. So have you still not received an invoice for this?
I have not received the invoice, and she has not received any product items as of today. I talked to her this morning.
Okay, great.
And
so
then Kaplan, I've been getting invoices within a week of submitting.
Yes, yeah. Actually, usually even sometimes within a few days. So one thing that you can do is under this More Actions, you can download a PDF. And we actually just recently added this other one we can go through in a moment. But this purchase order PDF, if you click on this, it will actually download a PDF that you can actually send to Kaplan and say, hey, you know, I'm just following up. I think this should have been sent on January 13th, but it looks like, you know, I still haven't gotten an invoice. Can you verify whether or not you've received it? And if you haven't received it, please process it right away. So this kind of gives you a nice paper document that you can send to the vendor right away.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, is how to get something like that. And that was under Edit? Is that what you said?
So you actually select the little triangle that says Actions, and then download PDF, and then you can do one of these. This other one here is the payment request form. And so this is actually requested by Arapahoe Council, so thanks Arapahoe for the great suggestion. And what it does is it actually captures the audit trail, if there were any QI Navigator notes or approval notes, all of the items, the QIP category and how it's being paid for, and who the vendor is. So you could actually use this kind of in lieu of a check request form for your accounting system. So you can for accounting, or if you'd rather, you can actually just do Control-P, and you can print the actual view here, and it's got all that same payment information on here. So it just sort of depends on how you like seeing the information, how your accounting person likes seeing the information. So those are two pretty new things. And if you have a need for another type of PDF, it's basically like a little mail merge document that we can create. So just let us know, and we can probably customize something for you. It doesn't take too long to get it set up. And you can actually do it in any module. So you could create like an account profile PDF or like a requisition summary PDF, different things like that. In the future. So again, this is a good lesson though, that if you have a spending record that's stuck in the status of ordered and you have not received the invoice, please go ahead and reach out to that vendor and make sure that the vendor received the information. You should always be CC'd on those purchase order emails. And if you're not, there might be something that went wrong, so let us know. And we are, like I said, I believe that we've corrected all of the issues that we were having with purchase order emails. It was related to when we switched from statuses to this new available actions process. But please let us know if you feel like it's not working, because that way we can make sure we get it corrected right away.
So to reach out to Kaplan, do I email them on the customer verification at Kaplan or the KBirch at Kaplan? If I click on the record.
Yeah, did you click on Kaplan? You know, I think you could actually do either of those emails and you would get a good answer. So customer verification is where the actual invoice, where the purchase order should go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so, yeah, so you can always look at the vendor contact information by clicking on the vendor record. All right. Okay, so we have a couple more questions. Oh, great. So here's a good question. So Katie mentioned, don't know if you mentioned it, but the POs won't populate unless the order has gone completely through. And actually, I think so thank you for mentioning that. So what she means by that is the purchase order won't be populated on that PDF document until after it's been pre-approved by either the program manager or the lead coach. And until then, it kind of shows up basically blank because it hasn't been pre-approved yet. So that's a great point. Thank you, Katie. Here's another question. Is there a way to block off the manual entry in EC Connect for Kaplan and Lakeshore orders to force people to shop on the punch-out? This has happened multiple times to us when providers or coaches have done them incorrectly and the order never makes it to the vendor. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, that's something we could potentially look into. I will talk to our developers and see if there's anything that might not be a good idea about that. I think the reason why it's not set up like that is because if you, for some reason, you don't want to shop at the actual website, you kind of know what you already want, then I think we were trying not to kind of prevent that, but it doesn't really hurt anything to have them kind of have to go through the website, I think. So we will check that and let you know if that update can be made by next week. Great idea. All right. Any other questions? I think we're just about at our time. Oh, here we go. Oh, it looks like maybe this is a part of a sentence. At least directions on not to push the blue tabs. Mara, I think your sentence got cut off. All right, so there's another question. Is there a way to limit accessibility to coaches when linking a requisition to coaching detail? We've had lots of errors where coaches link to an incorrect requisition, so are depleting hours from other sites. Yeah, I think that's a really important issue to point out. We really need coaches to be putting in the right requisition. Now that coaching details, you're tying it directly to the account. Hopefully that will cut down on some of those errors. But like, for example, here, you should type in KinderCare, and then it will show you the program abbreviation, and you literally just start typing that program abbreviation to pull up the correct coaching requisition. So unfortunately, we've tried figuring out ways that we can prevent people from accidentally entering the wrong requisition there. The only way that we know of that would be possible is to actually move this form to EC Connect, just like the spending request form, so that the coach would actually be entering their coaching logs through EC Connect instead of through Sugar. So that is something we will explore as a potential improvement because it would be able to lock down, like, hey, you selected KinderCare Learning Center, so you can't select somebody else's requisition to go to the coaching detail. But for now, we really, we need coaches to really be paying very close attention to when they assign the requisition because it makes a really big difference, obviously. You don't want to take hours from the wrong site. Are there any questions or comments on that? Would people kind of want to see the coaching logs maybe put into EC Connect? That's a somewhat significant improvement, but it might help with things like this. It also gives you easier access to things like QIP goals. There's some people saying no, so that's interesting. Cool. So then, we will kind of brainstorm on that, see if there's anything else we can do, and bring some ideas to the Sugar Advisory Group and bring that to this Friday support call to kind of get people's feedback and insights. But I think ultimately, you know, now that you're entering the account here and you get that program abbreviation populating for you, it should be really simple to make sure I'm typing in KLCL, KLCL, and that requisition is pulling from the right place. All right. Let's see. When will we get the updated CDHS quarterly coaching reports? So you can run those at any time. They're in Sugar. But as we mentioned at the beginning of the call, all of the coaching reports are being updated to reflect that they're no longer pulling from meetings module, but they're pulling directly from coaching. So if you type in coaching, percent sign coaching, there's the CDHS QI coaching requisition summation, CDHS quarterly coaching report. And I'm not sure if this has been updated yet, but this is the report that you can run, and you can change the date range on here. See, it says last quarter. So this is going to be your last quarter of coaching. And so you want to say is one of, and put in all of these, so you're tracking all of your coaching assessment types. Now these are runtime filters. So it's going to remember what you last ran the report as. So you just want to check these runtime filters to make sure it's the criteria that you're wanting to pull right now. So, you know, if I had said is last month when I ran this last, then it would remember that, so then I would need to come back in and change that to last quarter. Okay, great. All right, so QRIS QIP, what category and criteria do I choose if a site wants to purchase technology, a computer, to link it to EC Connect? Are there any coaches or program managers on the line who want to answer that question? I do not have that kind of content knowledge on where technology would fall under the quality improvement categories and criteria. Anyone want to help Tina out?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What category or criteria of QIP do I choose if a site wants to purchase technology, for example, a computer, to link it in EC Connect? So basically, if a site wants to purchase a computer, where do they put that? I mean, would that be under leadership management and administration, as an example?
I would list it under professional development, depending on what they want to use the computer for. If they're wanting it for the professional development of their staff, so they could take the training modules in PDIS, then it would fall under professional development. But if they're wanting it for their program to do assessments on the children, it can fall in a lot of areas depending on what they want the computers for.
That's great. Thank you so much. Tina, does that help answer your question?
Can you hear me? My internet's slow. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So when you pick a criteria, nowhere in the QIP is there a criteria choice, because you have to pick a criteria to save the QIP. Is there a criteria choice for a purchase like that? So that's why I'm trying to figure out, because you can't save the QIP without picking a criteria, and there are no criteria choices for technology. You know, you can pick a category like leadership management or professional development, but you can't pick, but the criteria don't match up. So where would you put that?
So in the goal section,
make sense?
The goal, could you write that under professional development, under, so say you choose professional development, then you say staff will get in the PDIS or whatever it is, 50% or whatever one it is. Then can you write down the program would like to use their QI funding to purchase a computer for the staff to be able to do professional development? and X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
Yeah, but you still have the criteria, though none of them fit that.
I pulled it up on the screen. So workforce qualification and PD, and we want to say this is for early childhood teachers or ongoing professional development, maybe?
Let's say ongoing professional development. They want to do trainings, but you don't get.
Wouldn't this be the program has a program-wide professional development plan informed by individual PD? Staff have completed individual PD plans. Early childhood educator and administrators use the self-assessments. So it kind of seems like this program-wide PD plan informed by individual professional development plans might be a place where if on the individual PD plans or at the site level the PD plans is one of the ways that they're accomplishing that is that they have access to computers so that they can complete their L2 modules or something like that. Is that
so just type? Yeah. Just curious.
Or like,
you know.
I don't think it's trying to be a gotcha or anything. I think it's really just trying to figure out, if you're purchasing a computer, what is the primary purpose for which that computer will be used, and then kind of figuring out what QIP area is going to make the most sense. Now, you might have a computer and you use it for assessment and for professional development and for administration, so you'd probably want to just pick the primary purpose you'd be using it for. Does that help? Is that sort
this
of...
is Michelle from... Hello?
Hey.
This is Michelle from the Office of Early Childhood. So understand that whatever you're purchasing, there has to be a reason for how it's going to improve the quality of the program. So if it's being used to help staff complete professional development, then put it under workforce. If it's helping them do child assessment, then put it under child assessment. So mostly when you're talking about purchasing computers, it's going to be what is the purpose for the program needing the computer. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. Does it make sense to everyone else? So I'm just kind of clicking around here, seeing if there's anywhere else that this might fit. But you can also look at all the documentation that's out there on creating your quality improvement plan. That kind of lists all the criteria and all the categories. So you don't just have to click on things, but you can kind of look and see where does it fit the best. So actually, a good example, one question that came up a while back, I can't remember what council it was for, but it was, if someone could purchase accounting software using quality improvement funds. And I think the justification was made that it was under leadership management and administration, under business administration, and that it was part of the organization's business plan or strategic plan and implementing a sound accounting system. Or maybe that they were planning on getting a certified financial review, so then they needed the accounting software to be better prepared for that, or things like that. So, I mean, there are many ways that you can figure out how is a purchase really going to improve the quality of a program and tie back to the Colorado Shines rating and QIP structure. Okay, well with that, we are 7 minutes over, so if there aren't any other final questions, then I think we can wrap up. And thanks so much for being on the call, and hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks so much.